Tasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Devgatane Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All together. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna,
Caitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vansa Kaupatubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitalam Pavanega Vaisaveva Namo. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Hare Krishna. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, it's very interesting, he asked Mahaprabhu, or he rather requested that he teach him Vedanta. And the reason was that he wanted to fix him in the sannyas order. Because by one's intelligence, by studying Vedanta, the idea is one's intelligence will become strong and one will see the difference between reality and illusion, the real world and Maya. And this material world, according to the Mayavadis, is completely illusion. So if one is fixed in that knowledge, that consciousness, and one is firmly fixed by one's intelligence through study of Vedanta, the commentary of Sripad Shankaracharya, Sarirabhasya, and one is very strictly following the rules and regulations, then one will be able to withstand the forces of illusion, of Maya, and keep oneself aloof from it, and therefore thereby not get entangled in any material activities. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he said, Vedanta Payite Tobe Aramba Karila Sneha Bhakti Kore Kichu Prabodha Kahila. That he began, this isn't what he said, but he began to instruct Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on Vedanta. And did you hear those two words in there? Of Sneha Bhakti Kore, with great affection, with great devotion. He began to instruct Mahaprabhu. He spoke to the Lord as follows. The Bhattacharya said, hearing Vedanta philosophy is a sannyasi's main business, for the reasons I just explained. Therefore, without hesitation, you should study Vedanta philosophy, hearing it without cessation, without stopping. We also say that Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, but not so much on Vedanta, but on the commentary on Vedanta, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, after the mature realization of Srila Vyasadeva that's described in the 5th and 6th and especially the 7th chapter of the 1st canto. But we also say Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, just hear the Bhagavatam. And the Nitya means, here he says Narantara, without cessation, continuously. But Nitya can mean daily or regularly also. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to him very humbly, and he gave Caitanya Mahaprabhu a higher seat, which is quite extraordinary. This isn't the way it goes. The speaker should generally have the higher seat. But because Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi and he was a householder, out of respect for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave Mahaprabhu the higher seat, even though he was going to be speaking Vedanta to him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's bhakti sneha, or sneha bhakti desire to teach him by saying, you are very merciful to me, and therefore I think it is my duty to obey your order. Okay, who heard that? Okay, who can say something from there? From that last sentence. That Mahaprabhu said. You can do it? Okay, go ahead.
That he gave the high seat to
Yes.
Mahaprabhu?
Yeah, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did. And Mahaprabhu said, what? How did he reply to his request? Yes.
You're very merciful to me, so I need to obey your order.
Now that is not very politically correct nowadays. You are merciful to me, very merciful to me. More tume kori anugraha. Anugraha means mercy. And therefore, it is my duty to do as you say. Because you're in the higher position, even though you're sitting beneath, but because your only intention is for my good. Therefore, rather than doing what I want, I should do what you say. Now, there's another time when I've heard this type of expression and this type of culture adhered to, is when Vishwarup, who is the elder brother of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, when he left home and took sannyas. Does anyone know his sannyasi name? Yes, I saw you about to pull your mask down so we can revealing your actual identity. Does anyone know his name? Shankaranya. So when he took sannyas, and Vishwarup was very learned, so Sri Jagannath Misra decided that the problem that caused, or the issue was that caused Vishwarup to leave, was that he was too learned. So I'm not going to allow my young son Nimai to learn anything. I'm going to take him out of school. And Nimai didn't like that very much, and he did a little local rajniti. What does rajniti mean? Politics. So he began complaining to all of Jagannath Misra's friends, and then they all came together. This is local style, also in Vrindavan. This is how, if you want to get your work done and you don't complain to the person directly, but you tell everyone else what the person has done. And then they all say, is it really true? From every side, 15 sides, people are saying, is this really true? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? So all Jagannath Misra's friends came to him and said, your boy, it's not, if you don't educate him, it's going to be his great loss. He won't know anything in life. And it's up to Krishna whether he leaves home or doesn't leave home, but you can't control that. It's your duty to educate him, to make sure that he's learning. So Jagannath Misra replied in a very similar way and said, because you're instructing me in this way, and you all have affection for me, and you're all saying the same thing, then I will do it. So what do you think of that element of culture?
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's beautiful?
Because it's about reciprocation and care and respect and thinking of the other person.
Yeah. And what happens? Good answer, thank you. Anyone else like to add anything? Yeah.
I think accepting guidance from your community.
Yeah. And what happens if he didn't do that? Just take it the other way, which is what happens nowadays. What would happen if they all said this, and he gave the yeah but mantra, where you say yeah but, and then you just give your reasons. What would happen?
Each one is on his own, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, and what were those people? This is a subtle hint. What will those people stop doing? They'll stop giving him advice, and then the next step is then you're all alone trying to figure out, instead of trusting all the people, or the senior person, very senior and learned and respected person in this case, instead of trusting them, who do you end up trusting?
Mind.
Yes, the mind. And who, maybe the outside people have let you down 1 or 2 times each, but how many times has your mind tricked you and let you down? So which is a better bet in one sense. So in any case, he says, you are very merciful to me. It's coming from the right place. Sometimes people will give instructions coming from the wrong place with the wrong intention to harm one, or you don't really care. But if someone's giving you advice, who's in a position to give advice, who's kindly disposed, the culture is that then we should very, very try our best to accept it. You are very merciful to me, and therefore I think it is my duty to obey your order, because it's coming from the place of kindness, anugraha, of mercy. Thus, for 7 days continually, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu listened to the Vedanta philosophy expounded by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. For 7 days. And he was speaking Sharirakbhasya philosophy, Mayavad philosophy, Advaita philosophy, which was completely against the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not say anything, and he did not indicate whether it was right or wrong. He simply sat there and listened to the Bhattacharya. Now, what would have happened if every time the person said something, in this case Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, said something that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't agree with? What would have happened if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have said, yeah, but that's not right, yeah, but, and would have kept saying, interjecting his doubts or thoughts or corrections, or now, what would have happened, do you think? Yes?
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya would not say all what he had to say.
He wouldn't say what he had to say, yes? What else?
You would feel that this person is not wanting to listen, not wanting to obey.
Doesn't want to take what I have to give him. And we probably feel quite bad. And what else? Anything else? Where?
He wouldn't have got to the end of his speaking.
Yes, that's the main point I was thinking of too. Now, if he would have given him the whole Vaishnava philosophy by saying that's not true, here's a shastric point, and this and this and that, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya would have what?
Been defensive.
He would have been defensive. He wouldn't have heard a word that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, basically. So therefore, Mahaprabhu listened for 7 days until Bhattacharya asked him a question. And the question he asked was, you have been simply listening, fixed in your silence. Since you do not say whether you think it is right or wrong, I cannot know whether you are actually understanding Vedanta philosophy or not. So he was still thinking his exposition, his explanation was correct on Advaita philosophy, but he was asking why he wanted to know something. He was curious, at least curious. Why aren't you saying anything? I can't tell whether you understand or not. So he was open more at that time. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied. So what was his question exactly? Does anyone remember? What was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's question?
Whether you understood.
Yeah, I can't tell whether you're understanding or not. If you had a question and you don't understand something, it's proper to ask, and then I can explain it to you so you'll understand. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I am a fool. And I do not study the Vedanta Sutras. I'm just trying to hear it from you because you have ordered me. Only for the sake of executing the duty of the renounced order of sannyas do I listen. Unfortunately, I cannot in the least understand the meaning that you are presenting. So first, there's something hidden in there. He's saying that I'm such a fool. I don't study Vedanta, and I can't understand the meaning that you're presenting at all, not even a little bit. Now, why is he saying that he's a fool? Because he told, he will tell later Prakasananda Saraswati, Murkha Tumi, told him that his Guru Maharaj, Sripad Ishwar Puri, which is, I don't think, it's doubtful that Ishwar Puri, because he was so respectful to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was kind of doubtful that he actually said this. He was just taking the position in relationship to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, to Prakasananda Saraswati. He said, Murkha Tumi, Tomar Nahika, you don't have the Adhikar. Tomar Nahika Vedanta Adhikar. Instead, what you should do, don't you study Vedanta, you are Murk. What does Murk mean? Foolish. Murk Tumi, you're a fool. Rather, Krishna mantra japa sada e mantra sa. This mantra is the essence of everything. You just chant this mantra. So that's what Mahaprabhu told Prakasananda Saraswati when he said, why aren't you studying Vedanta? This is in the, actually was earlier presented, I think, in the 7th chapter of Adi Lila. Why aren't you studying Vedanta with us? Rather, you're just chanting like a sentimentalist. So then he told him that. But here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, I'm listening because you say it's the duty of one in the renounced order, but actually I cannot in the least understand the meaning that you're presenting. So it's not that he doesn't say it directly, but I can't understand the meaning that you are presenting. And Sarvabhauma replied. So what's the natural question that he would ask? Kandavika, you're a year older today than yesterday, so you must know the answer to this. He said, why aren't you saying anything? I can't tell if you understand or not. And Mahaprabhu replied, I'm so foolish, I can't understand the meaning that you're presenting. So the question that could be naturally asked, which Sarvabhauma will ask as he falls right into the trap of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, would say, if you don't understand, why don't you ask questions? I accept that you do not understand, yet even one who does not understand inquires about the subject matter. If there's a desire to understand and you don't understand, why didn't you ask? So there he's leading to, and you're hearing again and again, yet you keep silent. I cannot understand what is actually within your mind. Which is an interesting point when you're counseling someone. There's a tendency to think you know what they're thinking, but actually that's called mind reading. And the easiest way to know what someone is thinking is that you ask them, what are you thinking? So there's a tendency, did they teach you this kind of thing? And don't be a mind reader. Don't try to be a mind reader. Unless you actually have mind reading abilities, then you can be a mind reader. What do you think I'm thinking, Navkishori? Let's see if you're a mind reader. What do you think I'm thinking? I could have done better with that, but yes. Prasudnama, what do you think I'm thinking? Okay, I'm going to change what I'm thinking. Okay. Okay, what do you think I'm thinking? You had it right the first time. I was thinking, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And then when if you would have answered, I don't know, you would have got it right. I tried to trick you, but you outsmarted me. The first time I was thinking Hare Krishna, about Krishna, but the second time I was thinking I don't know. So you got the right answer to the second time, the first time, even though it's a little confusing, but never mind. And then see Caitanya Mahaprabhu, I cannot understand what is actually in your mind. And now Mahaprabhu is going to start to speak. He revealed his mind, saying, I can understand the meaning of each sutra very clearly, but your explanations have simply disturbed, agitated my mind. Vikal, disturbed my mind. The meanings of the aphorisms of the sutras in the Vedanta Sutras certainly clearly contains clear purports in themselves, but other purports you presented simply cover the meaning of the sutras like a cloud. Wow! He asked. And then Mahaprabhu said, why don't you say anything? Because I can understand them on the sutras. You know what does sutra mean?
Like a seed, like an essence.
Now, what does it literally mean? Thread. Yeah, like sutra. In a sutra, like when you go to a doctor and they suture up, they tie it up. It's the same thing. They sew it rather. So it's a thread. Now, what does a thread have to do with what a Vedanta Sutra is?
Thread of knowledge.
Yeah, but the idea is that you have a thread and you pull the thread. If you just can catch the thread, then the whole thing will follow. The whole meaning will follow if you've understood it correctly. And Prabhupada gave the example of some kind of codes, or ISKCON thread would be ASAP. No, that's not an ISKCON one. A glories to AG, Pamho. Or what does Pamho mean? That's the thread, the sutra. But a more contemporary, less formal. Pamho is, nowadays they say Pam High. Pam High. Less formal. I didn't make that up. But actually, you know who made it up? Muddy. Muddy is he's so funny. And we'll get to hear from him in a couple of days. Pam High. Because devotees sometimes they'll say Pamho. Pam High, less formal. Anyway, it's sort of funny. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu, you like that one, Linda? You can have it. You can use it as you like. So then Mahaprabhu begins to speak. You do not explain, and very, very strongly, you've covered the meanings. Your explanations cover the meanings like a cloud. You do not explain the direct meaning of the Brahma Sutras. Brahma Sutras and Vedanta Sutras, the same, different names for the same literature. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover their real meaning. Just if he would have said that first, after the first day, or after the first hour, or after the first 2 hours, then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya would have closed the door. But Mahaprabhu was interested in changing him, changing his understanding, and changing ultimately his heart, and changing him from a Mayavadi to a Vaishnava, a lover of Krishna. You do not explain the direct meaning of the Brahma Sutras. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover their real meaning. Here's Srila Prabhupada's purport. This is typical of all Mayavadis or atheists who interpret the meaning of Vedic literature in their own imaginative way. The real purpose of such foolish people is to impose the impersonal conclusion on all Vedic literature, and that's actually what Sripad Shankaracharya says in his commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And I mentioned this last week. He said, I'm going to explain the Vedanta Sutra according to my philosophy, as opposed to I'm going to explain the essence of Vedanta Sutra, and then you will understand the philosophy that I'm proposing, the meaning of Vedanta Sutra. So quite a difference. The Mayavadi atheists also interpret the Bhagavad Gita. In every verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In every verse, Vyasadeva says, Sri Bhagavanu Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, or the Blessed Lord said. It is clearly stated that the Blessed Lord is the Supreme Person, but Mayavadi atheists still try to prove that the Absolute Truth is impersonal. In order to present their false imaginative meanings, they must adopt so much word jugglery and grammatical interpretations that they finally become ludicrous. Therefore, what does ludicrous mean?
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense at all. Just word jugglery. Therefore, Caitanya Mahaprabhu remarked that no one should hear the Mayavad commentaries or purports to any Vedic literatures. Next verse. Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued. The Vedanta Sutra is the summary of all the Upanishads. Therefore, whatever direct meaning is there in the Upanishads is also recorded in the Vedanta Sutra or Vyasa Sutra. So there's three names given: Vyasa Sutra, Vedanta Sutra, and Brahma Sutra. So this is Mahaprabhu speaking. For each sutra, the direct meaning must be accepted without interpretation. However, you simply abandon the direct meaning and proceed with your imaginative interpretations. Although there is other evidence, the evidence given in the Vedic version must be taken as foremost. Vedic versions understood directly of first-class evidence. So what the meaning of that is that this is a rule in grammatical, in interpretation of Vedic literatures, that there's a system, hermeneutical system, to understand the actual meaning of the Vedic literatures. So Jaimini Rishi has established this very much in his Purvamamsa philosophy. But one of the main principles is that you only take the indirect meaning when the direct meaning is impossible to take. So what's the example that's always given of this? Anyone know? Yes.
Something like the villages on the Ganges.
Exactly. You might say the village is on the Ganga. So the village can't be on the Ganga. Literally can't be on the Ganga because?
Can't float.
Well, unless it's a floating village, but yes, most likely. So when someone says that the village is on the Ganga, since the direct meaning doesn't quite make sense because the village can't be on a river, then you take an indirect meaning, which would mean the meaning of the sentences that the village is near the Ganga or on the bank of the Ganga. So that's a legitimate time to use an indirect meaning because the direct meaning is not possible. So, but if it says the village is near if the statement is the village is near the Ganga, and therefore it's very clear what the meaning is, so you don't need any other type of indirect interpretation. So that's what Mahaprabhu was saying, that if you take the direct meaning of the Vedanta Sutra, the direct words that Srila Vyasadeva is saying, then it's very clear what the truth is, but the meanings, the interpretations that you're given, rather than revealing the truth, they're covering the truth. They're covering by giving an indirect meaning where a direct meaning is obviously clear. Okay. So Mahaprabhu is speaking very, very directly. And then he's going to give an example. Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued. Conch shells and cow dung are nothing but the bones and the stool of some living entities. But according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. The Vedic statements are self-evident. So he's now moving to explain that the Vedas are self-evidently true. They're true. They don't need an interpretation to make them true. They're already true. So what's the example of the cow dung and the conch shells? What was the meaning of that?
Usually the animal stool is impure.
Yes. And the bones of an animal are also considered impure. But because the Vedas say, this is another example that's always given, but because the Vedas say that you can purify things with cow dung and the blowing of a conch shell, they're not impure at all, even though it would seem as if they were impure because they're the stool of an animal and the bones of an animal. But because the Vedas say it, we accept it, and indeed it is true. And can anyone give an example of how cow dung is pure? Yeah.
It's used to purify places of worship.
Okay.
And for cooking.
Huh?
And for cooking food.
And for cooking food. I mean, they make cow patties, they call them, right? And then you cook on those in India, and you wouldn't make pig patties and cook on it. I mean, it would just be quite repulsive.
Krishna gets bathed in cow urine and cow dung after the Patana wish.
Yeah. I remember.
When the Patana wish has been trying to kill Krishna, and then they give all the mantras and...
But that's in the Vedic system. Anyone have any direct experience other than theoretical experience?
Cow dung has like antiseptic properties, so when I had really bad acne, the only thing that worked was cow dung. It like cleared everything.
Was it fresh cow dung?
It was a cow dung mask. It was dried.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I put fresh cow dung on my daughter's wound and she got septicemia.
Wait a second. You're not allowed to say those things. We're trying to prove the exact opposite point.
It had to be dry.
Maybe it was contaminated by something else, or maybe it wasn't a desi cow or something. Maybe. I knew it was quite... Yes.
Back 45 years ago in Mauritius, in our kitchen, the walls were being cow dung was being applied on the kitchen, on the floor, on the wall.
Yes. I've seen that in Bangladesh. We went to the place of where it's called Prem Tali, where Narottama Das Thakur received the prem that Mahaprabhu had deposited in the river Padma. And there was one elderly lady there, and she invited myself and Jagtini Mataji in, and we ended up spending a few days there. And and she would cook for us and feed us. And after we ate on our banana leaf plate, instead of washing the area, she would just take some cow dung and just with I don't know what some kind of a broom of some sort, she'd just cover it, and the whole atmosphere was so auspicious. So auspicious. It was quite wonderful. And also I had an experience when I was still a university student so many thousands of years ago, but I had already started chanting, and we went out somehow, some friends, we went out into some area in New York State, and there were cows. So we started chanting Govinda Jai Jai, and then I remember sort of slipping, and my knees went into some cow dung, and it wasn't dry. I'll tell you that, Chaitanya. And then because in those days we were students, so we didn't wash our clothes so frequently. Not that any students shouldn't wash their clothes frequently, but but I was amazed, and I noticed this, and I never had heard this before, but there was no bad fragrance coming from, or you don't say bad fragrance, there wasn't a terrible odor coming from it. It just and I couldn't understand it. So that was a direct experience before I had the knowledge that cow dung was pure itself. So that was the example that is given, that the Vedic, even though the Vedic mantras or conclusions may appear to be incorrect or contradictory, they're actually correct. The Vedic statements are self-evident. They're swata, independent pramana. Pramana means evidence, and swata means they're independent. So Prabhupada translates that as self-evident. They don't need any proof other than themselves. Whatever is stated there must be accepted. And if we interpret according to our own imagination, the authority of the Vedas is immediately lost. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Brahma Sutra, compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, is as radiant as the sun. It's giving off light. Light means knowledge. One who tries to interpret its meaning simply covers that sunshine with a cloud. So now Mahaprabhu was explaining to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya what he meant, that you're covering the meaning like a cloud because it's self-evident. All the Vedic literatures that strictly follow the Vedic principles explain that the Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, the greatest of all, and a feature of the Supreme Lord. So here's Prabhupada's purport. So Mahaprabhu is immediately going for a principle, the heart of the disagreement with the Mayavad and impersonalists. And that is that the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person, not impersonal. He's a person. What does it mean to be a person?
He has feelings.
Yeah. You have to raise your hand. He has feelings. What else? Yes.
He has likes and dislikes.
Likes and dislikes. What else?
He's an individual.
He's an individual. What else? What's else?
You can have a relationship.
You can have a relationship because you're a person and he's a person. What else does it mean to be a person? Can you be a person and not have a form? Has anyone ever met a person that didn't have a form? Is it possible? What do you think, Gopal? Probably Chaitanya has.
Akashvani.
Akashvani. I don't know her. No, you have a form. But the form is filled with a Chintya Shakti, so it doesn't have the limitations of an ordinary form. And the Supreme Absolute Truth, being a person, doesn't have the limitations of an ordinary person. What's the limitation of an ordinary person? Don't start criticizing each other now, please. What's the limitation of an ordinary person? What's a typical type of limitation? I don't have anything in my mind.
Memory.
Huh?
Memory.
But that they have memory. Yeah. Limited memory, okay. Limited intelligence, but there too. What else is a limitation of an ordinary person? Yes.
Our consciousness is confined to a certain area.
Yes. Consciousness is confined, limited to a certain area. What else? Yes.
You're forced to breathe.
Forced to breathe. Do all persons breathe?
Breathe out.
Huh?
Breathe in and breathe out.
How about flies? Are flies people?
Yeah.
Do they have individuality? What do you think? What do you think? You sure? Have you ever met a fly you didn't like? He's very broad-hearted. Yeah, so I would. Do flies breathe? Do you know, Vasa?
I don't think they got lungs.
They don't have lungs.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a distinguishing characteristic of a person, but human beings, most of them breathe.
They breathe through the body.
Maybe.
No, I remember from science.
That flies breathe through their body?
Yeah.
No, they don't. Yes, they do. No, they don't. I don't know. Okay, so he's a person. He says the Absolute Truth is a person. Think of what that means. That he's a person. He has form. He has characteristics. He breathes. He has likes and dislikes. What's something, Brajadhamma, what is something that Krishna likes?
His cowherd boys and his calves.
Yes. Does he like calves too? Yeah. He likes his cowherd boys, his cows, and his calves. He likes that. And what instrument does he like to play? Flute. So if someone asks you, why does Krishna not like the violin? Why do you say he likes to play the flute? And what was the answer that we give? Because he's a person and this is what he likes to play. But do you know who likes to play the veena? Do you know what a veena is? It's like a sitar. Something like a sitar. I don't know the exact difference. It's a stringed instrument. Do you know who likes to play the veena? Yes, very good. Srimati Radharani plays the veena. And the veena is considered the most perfect instrument. So he continues, you are trying to explain him. The Absolute Truth is a person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full with all opulences. If we actually understood this on a deep level, what does it mean to be a person? Then our chanting would definitely improve, because there's a person on the other end of our chanting, and we're speaking and he's listening. Or if we look at the deities and we understand that the deity is Krishna and he's a person, then that would change how we look at the deities. And this person, the Absolute Truth is a person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full with all opulences, and he has all opulences. You are trying to explain him as impersonal and formless. So he's being so direct with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And here's Prabhupada's short purport. Brahman means Brihat Tattva, the greatest of all. The greatest of all is Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we talk about the difference between Brahman and Krishna, what we mean is that Brahman is, it's not that Brahman isn't Krishna, but Brahman is like seeing Krishna from a distance. And the example that's usually given is seeing a mountain from a distance. And from a distance, the mountain may look just like a cloud. Have you ever noticed that with the Perth Hills? I see that. Does anyone else see it? When you look at the Perth Hills, sometimes they look like a cloud. But when you get closer, you can see that it's not a cloud, but rather it has houses and trees and even a temple there. And people too. So from a distance, Brahman seems to be impersonal, like a mountain seems to be impersonal. So it's a distant view of the Absolute Truth, an introductory view of the Absolute Truth. But when one's closer, one sees all the details. So the greatest of all is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He possesses all potencies and opulences in full. Therefore, the Absolute Truth, the greatest of all, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whether one says Brahman or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fact is the same, for they are identical. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. Although the living entities or material nature are sometimes described as Brahman, Parabrahman, the Supreme, the greatest of all Brahmans, is still Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is full with all opulences, and as such he possesses all riches, all strength, all reputation, all knowledge, all beauty, and all renunciation. He's eternally a person and eternally supreme. If one tries to explain the Supreme impersonally, one distorts the real meaning of Brahman. So what does it mean that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What does it mean?
It means that he's a controller.
Yes. The Supreme Controller. What else does it mean?
He's even causes of Paramatma and Brahman as well.
He's
the causes of all causes. He's the causes of Paramatma and Brahman.
Paramatma and Brahman. Yes.
He's one without a second.
He's one without a second. It sounds like a broken clock. No, but he's one without. What does that mean, that he's one without a second?
There's no one who is exactly same as Krishna.
No one the same as Krishna, but there's no one the same as anyone. So there's no. Yes.
There's no one above him?
There's no one above him or equal to him. That there's a special name of Krishna that what do you know that? Asama Udva, which literally means no one is equal and no one is above. Asama Udva. Yes. Did you raise your hand?
I was going to say there's no one equal to or superior to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we find what's the cause of this, what's the cause of this, what's the cause of this, then ultimately he's the cause of it.
He's the ultimate cause. What's the Sanskrit for that? Sarvakarana Karana. What do you think? Miraj?
Limitless.
Huh?
Limitless.
Limitless. Okay. Speak more about his limitlessness. What does limitless mean?
He's not constrained by anything.
Yes, and more. So what part what about him is not constrained by anything?
His qualities.
Okay, which qualities, for example?
So, for example, like we are constrained by certain qualities, but
For example,
our senses.
Our senses. So Krishna has unrestrained, constrained senses. So keep going. So we get out of the abstract into the tangible.
So like we're limited by our eyes, but he can see everything.
He can see everything, and we can't see everything.
Yeah.
Even if we have very good glasses, we can't see everything. So he's limitless in every way. Each of his qualities, he has unlimited qualities, and each of them are unlimited. Even if he's angry, he can be unlimitedly angry. And when he's unlimitedly angry, what is he called? Nrsingadev. And when he wants to swim, he becomes Matsya Avatar, and he gets bigger and bigger because he's unlimited. He can be any size, and even whatever size he's in, he's still unlimited, even though he may be in a specific size. What's other examples of Krishna being unlimited?
Universal form.
Universal form. So how is that unlimited? It just is.
He's between and within every atom.
He's everywhere, in every atom and between every atom. What else? About unlimited? Yeah.
He has no beginning and no end.
Yeah.
He's unlimitedly merciful.
He's unlimitedly merciful. What do you mean by that?
Even if people that don't believe in him, or even the people that don't believe in God, but still he resides within them, the super soul. And that's it.
And life after life he comes and stays with them.
But if he's unlimitedly merciful, then why doesn't he just go like this and bring them back to Godhead?
Because they don't want to. They don't have desire.
Okay, but if he can go like this and bring them back to Godhead, even though they don't want to, because one would say that if his mercy is limited by their desire, then that's not unlimited mercy. We have a puzzle. Who can solve this puzzle? And then take it down first.
He wants our love. He wants to develop our love and our desire to him.
Yes. What else? Yeah. Everyone's so humble, no one will talk.
Individuality means independence.
Yes. Okay, but can Krishna do that? Can Krishna save someone and give one mercy who doesn't want mercy? It would seem that he can.
Yeah, but he also has likes and dislikes. So
yeah, that's there in Bhagavad Gita. In the answer, because Krishna says, there's one verse, Tamaham Dvishata Kroda Samsaration or that I take those who have a demonic nature and I cast them into different species of life. Do you know that verse? Anyone? Are you familiar with that? Bhakti Shastri Wallace? Do you remember that verse? What? Yes?
I can't repeat the verse exactly.
No, but you remember it vaguely. So then the question comes, why doesn't he just save them instead of throwing them into demonic species of life? And the answer is, he doesn't want to. There's no, because he just treats them, samoham, you want to be like that? Okay. He doesn't have an inclination to extend his mercy to them. But he can do it, certainly. He has unlimited mercy. So does that mean that that his mercy is limited? No, because he's reciprocating with them, as you all said. and the love and the desire is. What do you think about this? Sometimes do you think that you wish Krishna was more merciful and forgot about what you wanted and just went? What do you think? When you sometimes think like that? Yes. Do you sometimes think like that? No. Do you sometimes think like that?
Which way?
That's what happens when you have a cold, yeah. You should sit in front of the heater. Meaning that, do you sometimes think that Krishna, forget what I want, he should just be so merciful that... Do you think like that?
Yeah, I'd like him to just wave the magic wand.
Make it a lot easier if he just went, just took some dust. But if you actually want to take us to get closer to him, he'll reciprocate with that. If you actually want to get closer to him, he'll reciprocate with that. And of course, his mercy is causeless, and that means there's nothing we can do on our side to force it to happen. That's what mercy means, that it's coming exclusively from him, so we can't trick him into giving it to us. And I was just thinking about that this morning, about earlier in Caitanya Caritamrta, and then we'll end. It talks about how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, before he was Krishnadas, before he went to Vrindavan, he Miniketan Ramdas came to his home because they were having a kirtan festival, and it was a Khanda kirtan. It was just going on, and Miniketan Ramdas came, and he's an exalted devotee of Nityananda Prabhu. So both Krishnadas's brother and the Pujari, they had faith in Caitanya Mahaprabhu, but they didn't have faith in Nityananda Prabhu. So they didn't respect Miniketan Ramdas properly. And Miniketan Das took the respect that he didn't get as a disrespect of Nityananda Prabhu, and he was quite upset. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he chastised his own brother for how he acted. You can't do this. You can't accept. Gauranga Mahaprabhu would not accept Nityananda Prabhu. It's like accepting, the logic of Ardha Kuku. What is it? Ardha Kuku. What's the second word? Kutkuti. Kutkut means chicken or hen. Kutkuti. Is that right? Yeah. So that night, Nityananda Prabhu appeared to Krishnadas Kaviraj because he was pleased with him. So he had done something. He had acted. Kaviraj Goswami had acted in chastising his brother, and that had pleased Nityananda Prabhu and inspired Nityananda Prabhu to give him his causeless mercy. But still, that chastisement didn't cause the mercy, but yet his action somehow evoked it. So even though we can't force causeless mercy to come to us, there are still actions that we can perform in the proper mood that will make the Lord inclined to give us his mercy according to his desire. Okay, so we'll end here. So Mahaprabhu is continuing to instruct. I'm not reading many of the purports because sometimes they're technical and a little too hard to concentrate when you're hearing them as opposed to studying them. Any questions or comments? Niraj, you have any questions or comments?
I was thinking about before, not a general question, but you know when you said, or someone said Krishna has dislikes and likes, were we referring to him in his formless form or in his form as a person?
What was the first alternative? You said, one of them you said was that he has likes and dislikes was in his form or
In his formless form.
formless. Well, see, the idea of formlessness means there's no qualities. So if you have no qualities, then you can't have any like or dislike. In fact, in Brahman, all there is formlessness. There's no even consciousness of oneself as formless. There's just, you can't even say that there's the experience of eternity in it, because if you talk about an experience, you have to have an experiencer. So the answer is, when you talk about Krishna has qualities and likes and dislikes, we're talking about in his form.
What kind of enables him to make decisions?
Krishna?
Yes.
Because what enables you to make decisions?
My brain.
Is it your brain that? I mean, if we took out your brain and put it over here, would it be able to make decisions? First decision would be, don't do that. You can say what you want, but don't touch my brain. Don't take my brain out. The mind, you can say, and then the question, does Krishna have a mind? Yeah. And he has intelligence, but he has unlimited intelligence. And his mind, the function of the mind is attraction, acceptance and rejection, so he accepts what he likes to accept, he doesn't accept what he doesn't like to accept. And his favorite place is Vrindavan, a cowherd village, because the people there love him in a very special way. So he has likes and dislikes, he accepts, and this is what it means to be a person. So it's actually so radical when we think of Krishna. You know, we chant Krishna's names, we're trying to be devotees of Krishna, but when we think that there's a person on the other end of it, it completely changes how we view things. Both because say we're doing a particular service, or we're offering food, or we're cooking food. If we're doing it for a person, as opposed to doing it for an abstract concept of Krishna, it's completely different. Because then to do it for the pleasure of the person is called bhakti. Now, do you feel enlightened?
Yes. Thank you, brother.
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya ki jai, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hare.